Hello, this is AstrologerCoach Sonja Francis, and today we're going to be talking about the upcoming solar eclipse, which is a very powerful new moon, which will be exact on March 8th at 8:54 p.m. East Coast time in the US, which is also New York time, or 5:54 p.m. Pacific time in the US, which is also LA time. And this eclipse will be exact in 19 degrees of Pisces, and this is marking a new eclipse cycle and a new moon cycle as well. And eclipses happen approximately every 6 months. Now, a solar eclipse is a consciousness upgrade and a consciousness shift that we're experiencing. And in this case, this will unfold over the next 6 months until the next eclipse, which will happen in the beginning of September. Now, we'll also be talking about intention settings at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. And please remember, setting intentions for eclipses is different than for a regular new moon. So definitely pay attention to how you want to do that, okay? Now, those of us who have natal planets within 5 degrees of the eclipse will experience more dramatic shifts than other people. And I will talk about that a little bit later as well, okay? Now, during eclipses, the sun and moon are connected to one of the moon nodes. And so the moon nodes represents our soul's journey. And in this case, the eclipse is connected to the south node. So south node eclipses can help us release energies, let go of attachments that no longer serve our soul's evolution. We're kind of like redefining something about ourselves, something that we no longer need to do the same way or look at it in the same way. And so with the eclipse being in Pisces, of course, there's this sense that we're redefining or letting go of how we work with the Pisces energy, okay? So I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit, but let me just say this as well with the eclipses. They happen in 19-year cycles, right? And so one 19-year cycle ends and another one begins. And so this really reveals pathways to the next level of our evolution, right? So we need to kind of take a look at what happened 19 years ago. So the last time we had a solar eclipse in 19 degrees of Pisces was March 8th, 1997. So you kind of want to take a look at that time and see, was there a resonance between that time and what's happening now? And just remember, it's not going to be identical. It's really just going to be an energetic resonance. So think back, were there any major beginnings, any major endings at the time in 1997 for you? What was important for you back then? Was there any shift that happened for you in those days? And if there was something that happened in 1997, like where would you be taking that now to the next level? How would you be moving that to the next level, right? And how can you find what that would look like, right? So if you're looking for more guidance on those questions, feel free to look at your own birth chart and see in what house placement the eclipse falls. Where is 19 degrees of Pisces in your birth chart? And just look to see what area of your life is most ready to take on, this new perspective or this redefinition of the Pisces energy. Where in your life do you need to do that, right? And if that appeals to you, feel free to also watch my 30-minute class on how to read your birth chart if you haven't seen that yet. That might be also helpful to understand a little bit better how to apply that, right? Now, the new moon solar eclipse is also a supermoon, okay? And so there's another layer with this eclipse. It's not enough that it's an eclipse and that it's a new moon. It's also a supermoon. And so a supermoon means that the moon is closer to the earth, and therefore there are greater gravitational and electromagnetic pulls on our physical and emotional bodies. And so we're going to really be experiencing some very intense movement here that will also have a powerful impact on our psyches. So we really need to kind of like be very open here with this eclipse to see how is this going to unfold for us. What are we being called to pull into more fully, right? And since the eclipse is in Pisces, we really want to take a look at what is the highest vibration of this Pisces energy and how can we live into this highest vibration of Pisces. So Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's a water sign. And it very much connects us to our spiritual journey, to our spiritual bodies. It's a reunion to source, to God, to the universe, to our higher self, whatever you want to call it, right? Pisces at its highest vibration knows how to unify all dualities. It is aware that there is no such thing as separation, that we are all one, that there is an interconnectedness that takes place all the time between all things. That's the highest vibration of Pisces. And so learning how to move into that highest vibration really will serve us for the next 6 months. Now, of course, there's also a lower vibration of Pisces, which is, feeling separate, tapping more into a place of fear because we're feeling separate, not being able to trust the divine timing of things, not being able to trust that we are constantly and always in a collaborative process with the universe, with our higher selves, with intuition, right? And when we're not able to trust that, then we're moving into fear, we're moving into separation, we're moving into the lower vibration of Pisces, which can feel very overwhelming. And I talked about that already in my last video when I talked about the full moon in Virgo, right? So feel free to watch that again and see what else we talked about there. Now, Pisces is also the recognition about that everything is energy, everything is connected, and everything is a continuous flow and movement. We're sort of like a drop of water. Every one of us is like a drop of water appearing to be individual, yet we're also a part of the big ocean of life and of all there is, and it's all one in the end, right? Even though we all have our individual drops, our individual expressions of ourselves, but in the end, it's all connected to everything, right? So we're the sum of all parts. We are, all the physical stuff, the spiritual, the emotional, the mental. It's all interconnected. It's all part of the whole. And everything that exists, everything that we're able to perceive and experience and see and move with is part of the whole. And therefore, it's all perfect because the whole, the universe, is perfect, right? So we're learning that even more so because with this eclipse, Neptune, Mercury, and Chiron are also in Pisces, connecting to the new moon, connecting to the south node, right? And so because all of this is taking place in Pisces, this really amplifies this message from the universe that we're needing to shift from the rational into the intuitive as a collective on an individual level. We're being invited to also really tap into our feeling body and to forgive ourselves for our own humanness, because Chiron is part of this eclipse as well, right? And Chiron is about the wounded healer. It's about our wounding, our insecurities, our limitations. So, of course, as human beings, we have all of that. And so we need to forgive ourselves for not being perfect in the sense that we want to perceive ourselves as being perfect. Again, I talked about that already a little bit in the last video, right? But it bears repeating because this is really important part of this eclipse, right? So we need to open our hearts. We need to step towards ourselves with love, with an open heart, and with acceptance and compassion. And once we can do that on an individual level, we can also create that more easily collectively. But it needs to happen with each one of us first, right? Then the other part of this eclipse is that T-square that I also mentioned in my last video already. Saturn in Sagittarius is the focus planet of this T-square that happens with the new moon, with the eclipse, with Jupiter and the North Node in Virgo, right? It's all part of the T-square. And so part of this T-square is inviting us to take a look at our outdated beliefs because Saturn is in Sagittarius, right? So, for example, if you have a belief about time, right? What's your belief about time? What do you believe time to be? One of my beliefs, for example, is there isn't enough time in a day, right? Or it used to be a belief of mine, right? I discovered it last week more consciously and more fully. I always knew it was there, but last week I really, really saw it for the first time. Like, there isn't enough time. Wow. Like, oh my God, I feel so overwhelmed. And I really had to ask myself, is this really true? Or am I just creating this for myself? Am I creating this reality in my life that there isn't enough time because I keep telling myself over and over and over again that there isn't enough time? And also I had to ask myself, am I filling my day with more and more things to do so I don't need to be in touch with my own feelings? So I don't need to be in touch with my intuition, with my higher self, with other things in my life that I don't want to be with, right? And why do I not want to be with these things? Why is it so uncomfortable for me to slow down? And what's the fear that's connected to that? There's something that's getting stirred up. When you get uncomfortable about something, a fear gets stirred up. And what am I afraid of happening? What am I afraid of happening when I just get in touch with my feeling body, with my intuitive body, with just being with myself? What am I afraid is going to happen? Am I afraid that I'm not going to be able to do what I need to do? Am I afraid that I'm not going to be in control anymore, that I have to give up control? So it's really kind of like looking at what is underneath of this attachment to this belief that I have, right? And so just look for yourself, what is it that you think about on a daily basis? Like things, reoccurring thoughts that come up that are part of your belief systems because you keep thinking them over and over and over again. They're part of what you think is true, right? So take a look at that and really feel into that and feel into, like, be honest with yourself. Like, what are you afraid of? What are you avoiding in your life? Observe these reoccurring thoughts with kindness in your heart. Have compassion with yourself, because these reoccurring thoughts are part of your conditioning. This is something that comes from, a very early age where you were really, really young. And, me believing that there isn't enough time, this is something that has developed, since the beginning of time, since I was observing how my parents would run around and constantly be in action and constantly doing things and not taking time for themselves, not tapping into their feeling bodies, not really being aware of what was going on inside of themselves, And I, as a child, sponged that up. So part of me, it's like, it's part of my DNA almost. It's part of my conditioning, right? So I have to be really kind and gentle with myself, because I need to remind myself that this familiar setting of needing to be in control and, needing to feel like I am in control, right? That is part of my conditioning. This is what my parents have done before me. This is what my grandparents have done before me, right? It's a big part of the collective conditioning. And so I am just one of those drops, of the whole that has continued to believe in that. But it's an outdated belief, right? So isn't it just the same as believing like that we're separate from each other, that we're not connected to the universe, right? That's another outdated belief, right? So we're getting a chance right now for the next 6 months even to take a look at these outdated beliefs, these old paradigms, these old ways of being with ourselves that are no longer serving us, that are limiting. So take a look at that for yourself with kindness in your heart. And just remember that, these reoccurring thoughts is not who you are. They're just thoughts. They're part of your conditioning. It's just energy passing through. They're not the truth. And that's very important to remember. These thoughts are not the truth, right? So one of the things we want to remember with eclipses is eclipses are a time for clarifying and affirming our highest path. So this really gives us an opportunity here to really be open to stepping into this highest path of ours, that we came here to walk and to be with. So with the moon nodes in Virgo and Pisces, we're invited to really simplify our lives whenever possible in our day-to-day lives. and to bring love to everything we do, everything we experience, all that we are on a daily basis. Keep bringing love, keep moving with love, keep tapping into love, right? And we're bound to experience through that, we're bound to experience a release as well as a recalibration. Old codes will get deleted, new programming gets downloaded at the time of the eclipses, especially in connection to emotional and intuitive intelligence, especially in connection to this idea of being connected, being one with everything there is, right? So when we suppress or deny our feelings and our intuitive gifts, we're really staying in the old paradigm. That's part of the old paradigm. That's part of the old programming. It's part of our old conditioning. So now we're allowing ourselves, we're having this opportunity with this eclipse to really step into this new paradigm, this new place where we're no longer suppressing and denying our feelings and our intuitive gifts, and we're connecting much more fully to our heart, to love. And that's a new paradigm. It's completely new to us. We're learning completely new to tap into our feeling bodies and to see how our feeling bodies are just as valuable as our physical and mental body. We're so used to, like connecting to the physical and the mental, it doesn't seem that, it's like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. The feeling body is something we're not used to connecting with. It's something that has sort of like a stigma to it. Sometimes, right? Where it's like, oh no, this is uncomfortable. I don't want to be with my feeling. I don't want to be with my, this is silly, or it's silliness, or whatever, we tell ourselves, right? It's all that conditioning. And we've been, dealing with this for many, many centuries now, But there's no shame in feeling things and being sensitive or being imaginative and kind, This is not just something we have to allow ourselves to be with loved ones and people will feel safe around, but publicly as well. There's no shame in this. So we really need to shift our perspective about feelings and being sensitive from being a perspective that it is a weakness to allowing it to be our strength. It's time. It's time that we move into a paradigm that allows us to see feelings and sensitivity as something that is strength. Especially for people who've been constantly taught and told by other people, by their parents or by society, don't cry, be strong, you have to have a backbone, like don't let things get to you, all these messages that we continuously receive, So we really need to embrace all of who we are with this, and the feeling body is a huge part of who we are. It's actually more than everything else that we are. Our feelings are so present and so impactful on the human condition. So by really moving with that and embracing that, and we can fully function in the world. We can actually be fully whole in the world. And then we can create a world that really supports all living things equally, which we cannot do if we're not fully connected to all of who we are on an individual level, right? So if we can shift our perspective from a failure and blaming model to a growth and learning model, then we really have an opportunity here to take a quantum leap forward, not just on an individual level, but also on a collective level, right? Because, the fear-based paradigm is all about failure and blame. And the love-based paradigm is all about growth and learning. It's about really how are we moving to the next level of evolution, right? And that's love-based. So remember, a transformation of 5% of the whole of the world, of all beings in this world, would trigger a lasting shift for the collective, for everyone. Only 5% can do that, right? So question you can ask yourself is, are you going to be one of those 5%ers? What might shift if you allowed yourself to float with the stream rather than struggle against it? What might be possible if you gave your body and mind the opportunity to slow down and get quiet at least 5 minutes every day? And maybe even every hour if you can. 5 minutes every hour, that's not that much. But, for some of us, that might be a lot. So just start with 5 minutes every day and then, move yourself up to 5 minutes every hour, right? And that slowing down and that giving yourself the opportunity to be with yourself in a loving way, in a kind way, in a compassionate way, just tuning into your feeling body, into your intuitive body, that is going to be really valuable, right? So as best as you can, on the day of the eclipse, allow yourself to be in a quiet, receptive state. And if you can, even the day before and the day after the eclipse, if you can, allow yourself to meditate, take walks in nature, do creative or spiritual things, endeavors, anything that supports you to go within and helps you to tap into your inner divinity, into your inner love place, love center, right? And if you have other obligations like work, or you have to take care of your kids or elderly parents or yourself if you're sick or if you're not well, as best as you can, whatever else you're doing, take 5 minutes and break away here or there and get quiet and be with yourself, your intuitive self, your feeling self. Just as best as you can, okay? Be kind with yourself with this, all right? Now, we're also invited to look at any disconnection from spirit for the next 6 months, because this is a process, right? So questions you can ask yourself for the next 6 months. What might a healthy connection with the energetic world feel like? What would that look like? What would it feel like to just have this healthy feeling of oneness, this healthy tapping into a place that is love-oriented and self-accepting, right? And could we allow what shows up in our lives without questioning it? Could we just allow what is to be rather than trying to constantly resist and move against it and be fearful about things? Can we just let it be trusting that what is showing up is perfect, right? So having an open heart is really essential here for these next 6 months. And just remember that does not mean that you have to give up parts of yourselves just because you have an open heart. It doesn't mean you're not going to take actions. It doesn't mean that you're going to be a doormat for other people. It just means I'm coming from a place of love, moving towards myself and other people with love. I walk, with an open heart and take actions that are in alignment with myself, with my intuitive self, with my feeling self. Not something that's not in alignment with me. And I can communicate from that place of love and set healthy boundaries. I can even remove myself from situations when that's the loving thing that I need to do for myself, right? So in other words, whatever you do, move with love rather than fear. Let fear be a thing of the old paradigm and let love be a thing of the new paradigm that you're stepping into. Be fully aware of when you're moving with love and when you're moving with fear. Allow yourself to see it, to observe it with love, with kindness. It's like a relearning process. It's a process. We're relearning to move in a different way with ourselves. And so our conditioning was so much a conditioning of fear and of being closed off and protecting ourselves that an open heart used to be luxury. But now it's really becoming a necessity. If we're not opening our hearts in this part in our life, at this juncture, we're going to get stuck in the old paradigm, and we're not going to be able to move into a new place of our evolution. And so each one of us can decide now, right now in this moment, if you want to do that, right? So between now and April 7th, allow for the new templates to download. This is the eclipse season between now and April 7th. Stay centered and grounded within yourself as best as you can. Conscious breathing can be very helpful with this. Flexibility, being flexible and adapting to whatever is happening around you can be very helpful with this as well. And just remember that, this is and a time of uncertainty. It's a time where we're receiving these downloads. So we're feeling a little bit like we're walking on sand rather than solid ground. So just allow that to be okay. Become the observer of your emotional and mental body. You know, allow thoughts to just move through, allow feelings to move through your body. It's just energy. It's just going to move through. It's all okay. There's nothing to fear. There is no need to be afraid of the future. Remember that all of this is happening for our highest good. It's part of our evolutionary process, and it's not going to last forever. This is just 4 weeks. These eclipses are just for 4 weeks, and then the downloads are completed. All right? So if you have an ascendant or personal planets in 14 to 24 degrees of Pisces, Virgo, Gemini, or Sagittarius, then you are definitely going to feel more impacted by this eclipse, and you'll experience more acute shifts in your life. But also, if if you look at the house placement in your chart where 19 degrees of Pisces lands in your birth chart, you will see what area of your life is most affected by this new paradigm that you're needing to step into, right? And so feel free again to watch my video on how to read your birth chart. If you haven't seen it yet, if you can't find it on YouTube, then email us at info@astrologercoach.com, and we'll send you the recording, a link to that recording with some handouts. Just simply write recording in the subject line. All right. Now, a quick announcement before I talk about setting intentions. I have another monthly live forecasting forum that's coming up on March 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's a 90-minute webinar. It's an interactive webinar where we're going to be talking together about what's coming up, energetically speaking, with all the energies, with all the planetary movements, what's coming up at the end of March and in April. And I want to just invite you to really get the maximum support. This webinar is really here for you to ask questions, to get what you need, to be in alignment with the stars. And it's taking place on the day of the lunar eclipse. So it's going to be a very juicy day for us to be having this webinar, this forum. So feel free to join us if that sounds like something you'd like to do. The fee for the webinar is $24, and you can register right now on my website at AstrologerCoach.com. You just go below the video about Saturn and Sagittarius, and you can register for the event right there. Okay? So everyone's welcome for this event, by the way, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, advanced, pro, it's all good. We're making space for everybody, okay? It's going to be a fantastic, fantastic time. The last one was really amazing already, so feel free to join, okay? Now, if you want to sign up for my newsletter or my weekly forecast and receive those via email, you can do that as well by writing info@astrologercoach.com and just writing weekly forecasts or newsletter in the subject line, or both if you want to receive both, all right? Newsletter goes out twice a month. Weekly forecasts go out every Sunday night, all right? So let's talk about setting intentions for the solar eclipse. Very important. It's different from setting new moon intentions, regular new moon intentions, because the energies are so strong that are coming down at the time of the eclipse that we need to, first of all, just allow that to come down, these downloads, before we set our intentions. So we want to wait 48 hours after the new moon becomes exact before we start setting intentions. We also want to avoid moon void, of course, phases as we usually do. And so this month, the best and most potent time to set these intentions for the next 6 months, by the way, solar eclipse intentions, we set them for 6 months because they go from this eclipse to the next eclipse, right? So planting your seeds for the next 6 months, anytime on March 10th, so 2 days after the eclipse becomes exact, March 10th after 8:54 p.m., after 8:54 p.m. until 1:24 p.m. on March 11th. And then again, because then there's a moon void, of course. So after the moon void, of course, on March 11th after 2:44 p.m. until 8:54 p.m. on March 12th. And all of that is Eastern Standard Time, New York time. So if you live in a different time zone, feel free to plug that into a time zone converter on the internet, or simply follow me on Facebook or Twitter. I will be posting lots of reminders at those most important times. So when you read about that, sit down and write down your intentions. And if you want to know how to set these intentions, feel free to go to my website to either the frequently asked questions page, or you can also, on my Facebook fan page, I have notes on my Facebook fan page that talk about how to set intentions and how to do that. Okay, so feel free to look that up. For now, though, here are some questions you can ask yourself and you can sit with and be with right after the eclipse becomes exact, before you set your intentions, and if you like, also for the next 6 months. What stops me from connecting to my inner divinity? So just kind of connect to that question without needing to answer it right away. What if I opened myself up to the perfection of life? And what if I trusted the universal timing of all things, everything that occurs? What if I just trusted the universal timing of all things, everything that occurs? Great question, right? So feel free to reach out if you have any general questions about the eclipse to Sonja at AstrologerCoach.com. That's Sonja at AstrologerCoach.com. I'm happy to answer general questions. You can also ask them during the forecasting forum as well, of course, or via email before the forecasting forum. If you have any personal questions, I will ask you to book a reading with me so I can honor my time and answer your question fully and completely. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So feel free to go to my website at astrologercoach.com, to the services page, and just see what's available there and book the reading that's in the best alignment with yourself at this time. All right, have a fantastic eclipse. This is Astrologer Coach Sonja Francis. Goodbye.